Syncretic Syriac culture of the St. Thomas Christians before 1500 AD. We are embarking on a journey into the distant past in the history of the St. Thomas Christians in Kerala. We do not have a clear roadmap for this journey. Our forefathers were not enthusiastic about leaving much documentary evidence of their life and activities. However, they liked to sing and narrate stories and occasionally dance to them. As a result, a rich oral tradition and a handful of material objects are all that we have to reconstruct the period under our consideration. For that reason, we may take a diachronic approach to traverse uncharted territory. We may start from the present and dive into the deeper recesses of the past. This will be a reverse chronological approach. Along the way, we may have to draw heavily from the writings of the foreign visitors to the land. We may never know how far these foreigners were biased in their eagerness to record the history unfolding in front of their eyes. Our tool will be informed imagination. Informed imagination. We shall employ all the available data to imagine what else could have been there. There are three parts to this presentation. The first part's focus will be on the status of the Syriac language. Here, we shall explore the extent of Syriac literacy among the Christians in Kerala, how the Christians held on to an Aramaic way of thinking. Aramaic way of thinking. That phrase I learned from Father Charles Paingot, CMI, during our interview with him, and how the non-Christians responded to the Syriac language and culture. In the second part, we shall examine the unique features of the Syriac music repertoire of the Kerala Christians. The third part will focus on the ecumenical dimension of the Thoma Margam and how it served as a survival strategy for organic growth of Christian faith in the multi-religious milieu of South India. So let us start part one. Let us go to Broadway, Ernakulam. Okay, look at this picture. This was taken 2 weeks ago, a busy commercial street in Ernakulam. The photo shows the signboards of the shops. The language of Kerala is Malayalam. Nevertheless, the signboards carry the names of shops in English. It means that the English language still carries an element of prestige and is a sign of education and bilingual literacy of the people. From Broadway, Ernakulam, we moved to another side of Broadway. The Archbishop's house at Ernakulam. This is the capstone of the Archbishop's house. So we have one in Malayalam and the other in Syriac. Here's an interesting piece of information. This is check leaf of the Chaldean Syrian Bank in Thrissur, circa 1914. See, the name of the bank is written also in Syriac. This is from the collection of Wilson Muriarden. Now let's go to St. Mary's, my native parish. Well, St. Mary's Foreign Church at Pallipuram. The side altar in Baroque style was built probably in the 17th century. A sentence in Syriac is part of the ornamentation of the altar. It reads, "Behold, I will be with you until the end of the days. Hayanna amkonitayadum." Going further to Manyapra, a very intriguing image. The facade of the church at Manyapra Church carries inscription in Syriac. There is an inscription in the middle. It says, at the bottom, 1401. I showed this image, this script, to two of my Syriac scholars, and they couldn't read it. One person said the only two Syriac letters there are Tav and Aleph. Everything else is some kind of, it is not Karson, but some other. So this is a very intriguing topic for a master thesis by one of our scholars. I hope somebody will take it up. What kind of script is this? What is the text? And in the facade doesn't look like 14th century because this is a different kind of architecture from much later period, but they must have, or the church community must have been established in 1401, but the facade doesn't seem to be from that period. I leave it to some future scholars to explore this particular. From Manyapra, let's go to Korati. There are important inscriptions on the top of the open-air cross. The most important is the symbol of Yah and Trinity. Yah, 3 dots on the top and 1 dot on the bottom. A very significant part. There are numerous other public displays of information in the Syriac script. It means that Syriac enjoyed the high status that English enjoys today at one point in time. As late as the 1950s, clergy would write letters in Malayalam but sign their name in Syriac script. My baptism certificate is an example. Public display of information in Syriac script indicates the intimacy of the language that Christians in Kerala had. This is the missalette that Chicago Diocese printed for the celebration of the Syro-Malabar Convention in Houston in 2019. Major Archbishop Belivida was a celebrant at this event. Look at that. The resurrection hymn, Lagumara, is printed in Latin script. Similar to this, there was a time when we used Karson, meaning we wrote Malayalam in Syriac script. Can you believe it? This is the page showing from Father Gabriel's grammar book, the special characters that we created in Kerala to represent sounds that are not in Syriac. The Kerala Christians developed a system of writing Malayalam in Syriac script known as Karson. They even created scripts for additional phonemes that are part of the Malayalam language. The practice of Karson is yet another example of the Syriac literacy of the Kerala Christians prior to the modern era. Syriac in liturgy. There is no dispute among the scholars regarding the use of the Syriac anaphora of Mar Adai and Mar Mari, the earliest extant anaphora in Kerala. At home, the Syriac Christians celebrated the Pesaha meal once a year on Holy Thursday. The home ritual was referred to as Pesaha Appam Murikal, which is a literal translation of the biblical phrase breaking of bread. It is possible that before the evolution of ritualized liturgy, the early Christians in Kerala followed home liturgy similar to the practice of early Christians in Palestine and Antioch. The liturgical terms that St. Thomas Christians adopted into their vocabulary for conversation on religious matters testify to the Aramaic way of thinking. We shall examine two terms as examples, Kurbana and Madhbaha. While the Greek-speaking Antiochian Christians came up with the Eucharistia to refer to the ceremony of breaking bread, the Syriac-speaking Christians used the Aramaic word Kurbana for the same event. The term Kurbana has a long history of usage. For example, in the book of Genesis, chapter 4, verses 3 to 6, the word appears in 3 times in different forms about the sacrifice of Cain and Abel. Similarly, the word Madhvaha comes from the root dubach, which means to sacrifice. It has a direct connection to the altar of sacrifice in Jerusalem temple and evokes the stark images of blood, fire, smoke, the smell of burning carcasses, and cereals, etc. Words such as these convey more than literal meanings. They also carry emotions as well as layers of meanings that accumulated over the centuries out of usages by different communities at different times. Old Testament names for children, local adaptation of Syriac word. The table shows the Old Testament names for children in Kerala. These are the names of children that we still use: Abraham, Avarajan, Matai, Matukuti, Matapan, etc. So we are familiar with it. So it seems Old Testament names are more popular than the New Testament names. It may indicate a Jewish background to the first Christian communities in Kerala. It is evident that Jews and Christians lived in harmony in Kerala and shared many social customs. Both communities enjoyed high social status in the society. Syriac words in the context of family prayer, that is outside the domain of official liturgy. Let us watch a video. അപ്പോൾ ആദ്യം കുരിശ് വരയ്ക്കുന്നതിനത് കാണിച്ചിട്ട് പിന്നെ കർത്താവിൻ്റെ മാലാഖ ചൊല്ലിയാണ് പറയും.
ഞങ്ങളുടെ ശത്രുക്കളിൽ നിന്ന് സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ.
The following excerpt shows how Syriac words became part of family prayer vocabulary. The minor doxology in Malayalam consists of 4 words. 2 of them are in Syriac. The first and the third persons of the Holy Trinity are referred to in Syriac as Bava and Ruha the Kudisha. Interestingly, the Proto-Dravidian Tamil-speaking Christians in Kerala had already appropriated the Aramaic word Abba, with a slight change in the pronunciation of the second syllable for male parent as Appa. Instead of using Abba or Appa, the Christians used Bava to distinguish God the Father from biological father. The video shows also an example of greeting the elders in Malayalam. Isho Mishihaikum Sudhiyayirikkate. Praise be to Jesus Christ. In this greeting, Jesus Christ is referred to in Syriac as Isho Mishiha, the archaic Aramaic form instead of Yeshu Christu, derived from the Greek translation of the original Hebrew Aramaic form. This was, in effect, a part of the Aramaic way of thinking. By using such words, St. Thomas Christians celebrated their intimate connection to the time and place of the Jesus event. Interestingly, both these examples are seamless juxtaposing of Aramaic and Malayalam words. What is more interesting is that the Syriac words are inflected according to the rules and syntax of Malayalam grammar. Such intriguing intimacy can happen only due to centuries of respectful interactions among the speakers of the respective languages. It is as if the Aramaic words have become native through centuries of familiarity. We shall revisit this video during our discussion on Rasa. The Syriac words in the Malayalam language. As a result of prolonged presence of the Syriac language in Kerala, many Syriac words found their way into the Malayalam parlance. It is yet another indication of the communal harmony among the people of Kerala. Ara, Tara, etc., etc. Syriac in the literary tradition of Kerala. Well, this is interesting. This is the cover page of the first edition of Puthanpana. Look at the title. Hans Lieden's original title is Kutashapana. Puthanpana came later. Kutashapana. Interesting how he understood and appreciated the Syriac tradition. This title is a prime example of combining Syriac and Malayalam words following the Malayalam syntax. The title Kudashapana, meaning holy pana, a combination of the Syriac word Kudasha, meaning holy, and Pana, an epic poet genre in Malayalam. Hans Lieden's work was intended for all Christians of all denominations, not just for Syriac Christians. Hans Lieden's choice of the title might have been intentional. Hans Lieden presumed that the Aramaic word Kudasha was familiar to the Malayalam speakers in Kerala. Syriac words in secular Malayalam movies, an interesting video. We see 3 snippets from Malayalam movie songs where Syriac words are in use.
ബാവായ്ക്കും പുത്രനും പരിശുദ്ധ റൂഹായ്ക്കും സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ, എപ്പോഴും സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ. ഓമനക്കൈയിൽ ഒലിവില കൊമ്പുമായി ഓശാന പെരുന്നാള് വന്നു, ഓശാന പെരുന്നാള് വന്നു.
അർത്തുങ്കലെ പള്ളിയിൽ ചെന്നിട്ട് ഈശോയെ കണ്ടിട്ടും ഓശാന പാടാം. അത്രത്തോളം മക്കളാം നമ്മളെ കർത്താവ് കാക്കുവാൻ കുർബാന കൂടാം.
ബാവായ്ക്കും പുത്രനും പരിശുദ്ധ റൂഹായ്ക്കും സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ, എപ്പോഴും സ്തുതിയായിരിക്കട്ടെ. Look at Vailar Ramavarma. Very interesting. He used Ruha the Kudisha instead of Parishuddhatma and Parishuddha Arubi, etc. What a wisdom, because Arubi and Atma do not convey the original connotation of the word Ruh, breath. So he insisted on Parishuddha Ruhaikim. That film was made in 1970s, and we had already changed liturgy into Malayalam, but he insisted on using Ruha. Conclusion of part 1. The St. Thomas Christians took pride in preserving the Syriac language. They considered it a privilege to know the language of the Lord, quote unquote. By keeping Syriac words in liturgy, they felt connected with Jesus and his times. Over the centuries, Syriac language became an essential component of the Kerala culture. There are several signs of the intimacy of the Syriac language to the Kerala culture. One, the language was so prevalent and familiar that Christians and non-Christians alike were comfortable inflecting Syriac words by applying the rules of Malayalam grammar and syntax. Malayalam speakers adopted several Syriac words into their vocabulary. Public display of religious texts in Syriac script indicates that Syriac literacy was prevalent among the St. Thomas Christians until at least the 18th century. Even a century after Syriac intimacy diminished, Syriac Christians continued to use Syriac words in their daily prayers and conversations. Non-Christians respected and appreciated the attachment of the Christians to the Syriac language. They felt comfortable using Syriac words in popular songs that dealt with religious topics.